All right. So this is the now fourth episode of the Rappad Podcast. It is a little bit dark in my room. Unfortunately, I do not have an extra lamp, so I'm just gonna let it rock. I it literally did it twice, and now it doesn't want to. Oh, there it goes. All right. So I am here with Ely Waves. Eli, how long have you been a user on Rappad now?
I've been on Rappad for since 2016, I'd say, so 4 years, almost five.
Okay.
Pretty much ever since I started.
Well, I believe it started in 2013. I could be wrong. Could be 2014. There's a small group of people among all the OGs that were actually present there at the very beginning. I believe Left Field is one of them. I believe Mellow Hype is another one. Ill Words is another one, I'm pretty sure. Like Mike Parker also. We're all there like 2014. And then like myself, a kid, a whole bunch of people came in 2016. There were multiple like huge influxes of people. And I understand like Dom and Entre Band came in 2014. So right now you are releasing a ton of music. You're actually gaining some traction pretty quickly, which we're all very happy to see. I was going to ask you about really your opinion on the process of staying low key, and working just consistently, and also finding yourself and allowing things to be on the back burner for a while you figure things out, and then coming back to it, and also making use of what you have.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, honestly, like being on the back burner, like, it kind of goes two ways. Like, because like I want at some point, like you're questioning if you're good enough, like if you can ever do anything, like if you're ever gonna get traction, even if you like worked your ass off for it and like spent a whole bunch of money on promoting yourself. And on the other hand, like that whole time when you're on the back burner, you don't have to worry about getting any criticism from anybody. No one's hearing your music or anything, so you can really just focus down on the sounds that you want to make and what you want to do, and really kind of figure yourself out. Find out what beats you like, produce them if that's what you like doing. Find out how your voice sounds good, like what flows work for you, what flows don't work for you, different ways to deliver it. It just gives you a lot of time to really like hone in on like what you do well. And then I feel like you can just kind of take that to the next level when you're low key, without people watching you. Which I think can definitely help if you get too into your head. And I used to just take criticism super hard, and I used to get super into my head. So, and then when it comes to gaining momentum now, I don't know. I just kind of felt like I was at a point where like I had to go for this. I felt like I was good enough, and like I was finally good enough with myself to like start releasing stuff again. So I just had a ton of stuff. But honestly, like most of the stuff I've dropped has been like pretty new. I haven't really dropped most of my old stuff, but it's all still there, of course. But yeah, man.
Word. The whole reason I ask about that is because we had such an in-depth conversation about all of your old work, and the value of it and what it could be used for, and really just kind of like, I remember you said you were sort of coming back and reintegrating yourself into the whole mindset of like making music and getting it done, getting it recorded, and things like that. But I wanted to ask you, how long have you been rapping for?
It's been 5 years now. Pretty much started like December 2015. So like pretty much exactly 5 years.
Pretty much the same for me as well, actually. Uh, yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. I think I started like November 2015 or something like that. I can't quite remember. Um, I remember I was going to a high school in northern Connecticut, and I'm from like a ghetto light. Like it's not the deep hood, but it's still kind of the hood. And then I moved to Connecticut, and I went to like, I don't know, 5 different high schools or something, or 6. And the whole reason like I was already writing, but I was hanging out with these kids who would like freestyle, like these white boys, um, like really like white boys. And I just kind of like got sick of like seeing other people do it. And at one point, I think I had bought a microphone. I was thinking about rapping, and I hadn't decided to do it, and I almost wasn't going to. And then I kind of like sat down one day, and I looked for like a free beat, and I wrote something and recorded it all in the same night, and I put it out, and it was weird. It's surreal when you make the transition over from like, this is something that I kind of want to do. It's like it kind of tugs at my heart, whatever, and then actually doing it and being able to reflect on it as well. And it's very valuable. This is why, like, I've seen you're a huge proponent of this. I'm constantly talking about it. Record under any circumstances, even if it's like as simple as you prop your phone up against like the wall or something, and you just rap next to the speaker, as long as you know how to, like, as long as you make sure that you can hear your voice and the beat and play it back. Like, it's good to have that reflection and also to share it with other people, because you get to sort of gauge what your art does and what it means to others, and you know what potential you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree with you there.
So you've been doing this for 5 years. You're gaining some traction. You definitely have some talent with marketing. Where do you see yourself taking it overall? Like not just like a goal, but more so like you know, pipe dream fantasy type shit. Like what is your actual, you know, what is the best that you would want to do for all the possibilities you have?
That's a great question. For all the possibilities I have, so I mean, I guess the major message with my music,
I'm not sure if you're talking. I can't hear you though.
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Sorry about that.
No
Yeah,
worries.
so uh, can you repeat what you're saying? Sorry about that. I got it in my head.
Where do you see yourself taking things? Like, if you just
Taking
take the
things, got
cap
it.
off and there's
Yeah.
no limit.
So the whole message with my music, so like I kind of dealt with a lot. I don't know why it keeps doing this. Kind of dealt with a lot growing up with like mental illness stuff, depression, anxiety, and I used to like let that get to me. I used to, I was always really short for my age, and I used to get like bullied growing up because of that. And I would just let that shit get to me, and then like I finally just like turned the page, one day, and like kind of realized like I can be dealing with all this shit and like still be successful and like still live out my dreams and still do what I want to do. So that's kind of like the message I'm bringing with my music. So like I'll write a lot of sad stuff, and like inner feelings and thoughts. But I always try to put like a positive and like inspirational spin on it. Like still like a fuck you. Like I'm gonna do me, and I'm gonna show everybody. And like that's kind of the message I'm trying to bring my music. So I guess overall goal would just be to like get to every person who's like feeling the same way, about themselves, like down in the dumps about themselves, and like show them that they can still go and be exactly who they want to be. They can still go live their dreams. So I guess just touch as many people in that way as possible, in terms of like my overall goal or message.
Okay. Heard. Um, Outside of music and marketing, what do you do to keep yourself creatively sharp?
I do a lot of things. Creatively sharp. I mean, that's a hard one. I feel like I go through like really crazy spurts of like insane inspiration. I'll write like 50 songs in like a month, and then other months like I got nothing. I think it just kind of depends on like what's going on in my life. Like if I'm like seeing anyone, that especially always gets me a lot of inspiration. I think it's just like going out there and like experiencing different things, and then like always knowing like, okay, my first priority, like if I feel some inspiration, is like going down and sitting down and writing. I don't really try to force anything anymore. Um, a lot of time I freestyle a lot.
Okay.
I think that's kind of one of the best ways to stay sharp and like stay, keep your flow, keep improving your flow, and then also just like I could hear a beat, I could feel it, have nothing to talk about, and I'm just gonna keep trying to freestyle, and then eventually I'm gonna stumble on some subject matter that's like somewhere in my subconscious that I want to talk about. You know, I'm sure you've experienced that many times.
Yeah, I definitely have. Um, yeah, that happens a lot. It's just like I think it comes down to consistency and practice, and part of that is like literally you have to be able to do it consistently, like to a point where you literally, even if you're not doing it, it's still something that you're completely invested in. Like I know a lot of people, let me put it like this, who they when they're not on, they're totally off, and everything is like I don't have it anymore. You know, the magic touch is gone. I can't focus. I can't make music. I should just quit. Whereas when you're truly invested in getting better, you know that even when you don't have the inspiration, that it's going to come, and that there are also ways that you can work in the meantime to make yourself sharp, like freestyling. uh, and I think it just comes down to, again, just doing it over and over again and being totally invested no matter what the circumstances, because you're gonna end up knocked down. It's gonna be really frustrating when you're like, you want to write a song, you're trying to pull it out of you, and it just, there's nothing there, and you're thinking like, what the fuck am I gonna do next? It's just like,
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of found too, like every time I'll go through a dry spell of like not being able to write anything good. Like I won't write for like a week, and then I'll come back the next week, and the first thing I write is a level up from where I was the previous week or like the previous month. Like it's always improving, and sometimes like taking time off is what you need to like come back sharp. I don't know. It's kind of weird how it works. Every time I take time off, I seem to get a lot better.
hmm. Yeah, I relate to that. I think that it comes down to how you execute yourself in that moment. In the past, that really worked for me, and now what really works for me is going at it harder, because I now have an ability to recognize when I'm going in a direction that like is gonna land me at a brick wall, and being able to sort of choose directions wisely and go for the one that's going to allow me to go further and further and further. And that really came from like practice, practice, practice of like every few months for years, just writing 50 songs, and being willing to tear them all down, and being willing to like move away from them and make better things, and sort of challenge myself constantly. Like I've written you know thousands of songs in the last 5 years, and made like 1,000 beats, and well,
Yeah,
over that.
absolutely. One thing that I think is like pretty cool, and like a lot of people like don't keep in mind, it's like when they first start rapping or they first start making music, like they have an idea in their mind of like what they want to make, but a lot of times like that's not what they should be making. So I think it's really cool that like we started about the same time, and our styles are so different, and we totally went down like different paths to like get to that point. um, and I think that's really cool, just like figuring out who you are as an artist, instead of trying to like become someone that you look up to,
Mm-hmm.
because we all of course have those inspirations that we look up to, and like reasons why we wanted to start rapping in the first place. But like if you're just trying to be someone else, like it's never gonna be your best work.
Right.
And I think that was like the biggest thing that I found out when I took that time off, away from like releasing music, was just like who I wanted to be as an artist, and like what I wanted my voice to sound like, how I wanted to flow, like. And like I think it comes from like a little bit of like everything that I like, but it's also just me at my core. And I think it's really cool how like other artists who like done that for 5 years, like they're totally different. Might like all the same artists, but they also found themselves. And I think a lot of like new artists kind of don't really think of it that way.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right, because a lot of new artists are very invested in the idea of like being a virtuoso who steps onto the scene and is suddenly shit and gold and never had to try. Whereas for pretty much anybody I can think of, there's always at least a buffer period of years and years where you just got to keep doing new things until you realize like what is your sound, and what do you really connect with. Um, And on the topic of connection, what is your opinion on music as a meditation, as like a Zen experience, something that you kind of have to be present for, and also what do you think the effect of sort of being able to treat it as a meditation really has?
That's an interesting question. So I'd say like I don't know. I found throughout my life, my music kind of dictates like my mood almost. I think there's definitely like levels to it in terms of meditation because I know like I talked to some people that I went to like school with and they're like yeah I don't really like care about what I'm listening to, like I just want something in my ears, and like it could be anything, it could be country, like could be pop, like whatever, like they just want to listen to something in their ears. But like I think there's levels to like the amount of like meditation, like Zen you feel from it. But like when you really like start connecting with music more and like you get really into music, um, I think it like can really dictate your mood and like your life and the things that you're doing. Like if you're constantly listening to sad stuff or like you're constantly listening to like negative music, it's probably gonna bring your mood down a little bit more
Yeah,
often,
yeah. I try
versus
to
like listening to positive stuff. Yeah.
I try to explain this to my mother all the time. It's like I don't know why life is the way it is, and I'm like, well, your life really closely reflects the lyrics in your music. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. And I think I think that applies to a lot of people, but it's not just that the music is making you go into a certain state. It's that we choose music based on where we are already, and depending on what we choose, it'll fuel us in a certain way. Which is why I always do my best to gravitate towards like triumphant music, introspective music, stuff that's about learning about yourself and discovering yourself. And on the subject of meditation, you mentioned there's levels to it, and I think there's something to be said about that. It's almost like if music were like a building, and there's a lot of people who are like, on the outer wall, and they see that wall, they see what's on the outside, and when you get to know that layer enough, suddenly it comes down, and you can see deeper into it. And it really just takes the initial dedication of being obsessed with music, because I definitely didn't know a whole lot about like how to absorb music and how to analyze it and all that stuff when I was young. But as the years went on and I was serious about music myself and I did it myself, and really just like, especially I remember To Pimp a Butterfly was one of the first times that I like got so invested in a record that I listened to it dozens of times, and I dissected like almost every line in there, and I learned every line, and I knew every tone and the inflections. And when you have that level of obsession, your understanding of music itself gets deeper. And I think that's a great
Yeah.
analogy, because initially you only see the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you just said about like just analyzing music, um, and just like really getting into like the down and gritty, knowing every single every single thing about like the way that, for example, like what you said, Kendrick with "To Pimp a Butterfly," like you learned his tone, you learned his flow, you learned his delivery, the inflections, like to the T. I don't know. That just really hit me because like that, I just remember like sitting in my room like 3 a.m. like printing out albums of all my favorite artists and just like going through like and looking at the lyrics and just like how do you do this flow, like how do you do this rhyme, and like what you said about like just tearing down the wall, like it just slowly over time like you just level up, um, and you just connect with the music more and you connect with yourself more.
Right.
Yeah, really cool.
And I like that you bring that up. I mentioned this to a friend of mine not too long ago, because Chance did that Ralph Lauren concert, and it was fantastic. And I mentioned to somebody, I was like, I was locked up for a year. I was in a facility for behavioral issues because I had a crazy past. And while I was there, I figured out one of the only things I could do to connect with music was have somebody print out the lyrics for my favorite songs and give them to me. So I had a stack of papers, and
That's wild.
yeah, I learned every word, and a lot of it would take me, because I would have to wait to go to the school that they would send us to for me to like check and make sure that I've gotten the inflections down and I have the
Damn,
tones down, and I'm getting it right because I would rehearse it, and I'm like, this doesn't even sound right, and I would do it every night until like 2 in the morning.
that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
it's
and you just like, yeah, you're learning like the inflections just from like the words and how they're said,
yeah.
and like an artist and like how they're like how they typically do stuff. Like, I don't. That's super cool. That's super interesting. Did you ever find yourself like nailing it, like one particular artist, like when you went back and listened?
What do you mean nailing?
Like just nailing like the inflections, like the tone and everything, just from reading the lyrics. Like, just like, did any one artist like stand out to you?
I
Like you just
felt
nailed that guy.
I felt strangely like I could do Chance's high voice easily when I practiced it enough. And I loved his flow. I was able to connect with his flow so much to the point where it almost like taught me how to sustain it, like to constantly like rap those over and over again. Gave me a decent understanding of, because he does like cadence switches and inflection switches, and he does impressions
That
and
Chance is crazy.
yeah, like weird little jokes and all kind. And you gotta like do, you gotta understand it. And especially for me, like I grew up in like a ghetto light, but I wasn't part of the hood. Like I went to a elementary school where we were learning Black history and all this stuff, super early on, and they took all that stuff very serious. But I was still an outsider because I like, I didn't have friends. I didn't have any family, any brothers, any sisters. Like I didn't really have social skills back then. So like, I don't know. It's just about, I didn't have the foundation of like, I knew about music. I knew what notes were, and I knew like, singing, and I liked music, but I didn't feel like I had a deep understanding of it. So I ended up getting that deep understanding just by emulating, and I did that for years and years, purely out of like the love of the content. And another one was To Pimp a Butterfly, to be frank, and I used to sing along to Drake and all kinds of, but that was so, it was more cheesy than anything looking back on it. But when I got into Kendrick, it gave me a twofold realization of one, just how deep something like truly profound like that is when you break it apart and you see what's inside of it. And then on top of that, it was like, it really taught me about the culture. And I think the inspiration that To Pimp a Butterfly gave me was that not only is it possible, but you could do it over and over again. Like I felt like Section 80 was profound. I felt like Good Kid, Mad City was profound sonically, in the way that everything was executed, and the bravado and the confidence of it all, and how he just kind of like broke down the brick walls like he didn't care. And it's not even that, it was almost like they weren't there in the first place. But you could tell that Kendrick was kind of just busting out of his current state, and he was doing it over and over again. Like he was at one level with Section 80 with his fans, and then he was global when he put out Good Kid, Mad City.
Yeah,
And so like,
absolutely.
I think it all just, the inspiration and being in tune with it, and doing it on purpose. There's something very profound to be said about that, because there are a lot of people who, if you ask them like, why do you do this, and what is your, what keeps you going, they can only give you like one sentence. But when you do it purposefully, and you constantly try to like, not necessarily hold on, but stay aware of what it is that makes you you, and where you learned everything, you have the ability to convey it, and then also like grow on top of that. And I think a lot of people kind of get caught up in that first wave of like, oh, I have talent, oh, I can do this, I can do that, so I'm going to take it as far as it can go. But it can go kind of infinitely if you continue to add new elements to that. And yeah,
Yeah. How do you feel?
sorry, you cut out there.
How do you feel about Dan? Oh my God, damn. While we're on Kendrick, like how do you feel about that album? Like where he took that one? Because he kind of took a more mainstream approach. I feel kind of hit with a bigger audience, and like now he's like one of the biggest guys out there. Like how do you feel about that when you analyze that compared to some of the other stuff, and how he was progressing? Do you think he still was following that same track?
Normally when artists make that move and they make the album that the fans want, and it wasn't just an album that the fans want. Kendrick really wanted to make that album too, and he felt like all of his other works really kind of blended into Damn. And normally I'd be like, I respect it as a flex, but I don't just respect it. I really love it as a flex, and I agree with people like Fantano who say, certain parts of it, like turning, flipping the album backwards and selling it as a collector's edition and doing stuff like that. It felt like, it was going a little bit. It was going a little bit deeper than it actually was, and I feel like Kendrick is still going to make those deep classics, and I don't think his career is anywhere near done. I think he's still got like a solid, 3 or 4 albums in him, if not more. But I could be wrong. And
I mean, yeah, I think a guy like Kendrick could just like truly just go on forever and just continue to get better, like you said.
well, given how introspective Kendrick is, I don't think he's going to execute the same way that Eminem has. Because Eminem
Yeah,
has certainly tried to go on forever, and while we all respect him, it's almost like it's gone past the line a few times to the point where people are starting to notice like
yeah,
we don't really need all this extra stuff. And I think Kendrick recognizes that there's going to be a point where unless he unless he starts levitating and like literally and he figures out the secret to opening portals or something, there is a point where you start to repeat yourself,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you can only get so profound.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Especially with like the subject matter that you're on, and everyone just kind of has like that one subject matter that they kind of talk about
right,
more so than others. Yeah,
but I
yeah, that's good.
100% I feel like Kendrick is going to be able to do another 10 years 20 years of especially being in the game, if not recording and releasing albums. And I think that he's got multiple phases left in him. And Damn is a personal milestone. I'm not sure if it'll stand as a sonic milestone. I think To Pimp a Butterfly will for sure stand as a sonic milestone for hip hop in general, and it will for probably its entire history. And I feel confident about that.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think about Drake and like what he does. Like, I mean, like literally, this guy like he doesn't miss with his audience. Like he drops a song, instant hit, like instant hundreds of millions of plays. His flow gets like pretty repetitive. He's kind of talking about the same stuff every time. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts on him and his style. Like, are you like super respectful of Drake? Like oh my god, like look what this guy has done is just insane, or are you like I don't know, like these lyrics are the same, like flow's always the same. Like, what's your opinion on him?
So I remember comeback season. I remember because I kind of my history with hip hop actually goes back to Lil Wayne and Drake and like really loving those like ice cream truck bars and all the shit that Lil Wayne did, and then 10 years later hearing about how Drake was brought up by Lil Wayne and how closely connected everything was behind the scenes and their relationship with Nicki. And I've watched his Top Artist of the Decade interview where he goes on for over an hour. And it's a very complicated. I do respect him. I can't say that I respect him as a lyricist necessarily, although I in some ways do. It's hard to say because
That's
it's
fair.
it's hard to gauge what portion he really added in, because when you have
Mm-hmm.
co-writers on everything, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fair for him to say like, I have co-writers, I'm not stealing. This is literally like, sometimes I buy hooks from people who haven't blown up and I think that their
Mm-hmm.
work has potential. Sometimes I bring in people, a lot of times I bring in people, but he says he's always in the room writing. And I respect that. I don't know how I feel about him as a writer, I think that he is a visionary on a social and financial level. I do believe that. I think that that his attitude and his execution isn't perfect, but it's some of the best that we've seen, and that's why he's on top. And everybody who's on top is going to be on top for a reason. Uh, and like
Yeah,
the subject
absolutely.
of his beefs and stuff like that, like Pusha T,
Yeah.
I saw that and I took that in, and I saw Drake's response and it didn't look great. Generally, because it was just kind of dismissed on the note of like, hey, like I wasn't. It's not that I'm trying to hide my kid. I just wasn't about to. Uh, like he said he was pulling out of the Adidas
Wasn't gonna
deal
like.
anyway or something. Um,
Yeah.
and
What
go ahead.
What was that bar? It was like, I'm not trying to like hide my kid from the world. I'm trying to hide the world from my kid. Wasn't that it? Something like that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
some narrative like that, and I can respect that, but his reaction to like, oh, that was so messed up, and like I can't talk about it anymore, and like there were memes about like Drake is in a group with his friends, and people are bringing up Pusha T, and he's like, don't you say his name.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just I think it comes down to really the pettiness of how things can spiral, and I think that Drake has a talent for handling things professionally and coming out of things on
Yeah.
top.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always put himself in the best light in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
technical about it, and he's very good at it, and
Yeah.
I think that works in his favor. Um, and yeah, I
Yeah.
mean personally, I think Drake has another 10 years. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say that he's gonna be on top for another 10 years, but I think he's gonna be making crazy money for another 10 years.
Facts. And forever with that catalog. Oh my God.
For sure,
But
for sure.
yeah, we were on this like topic of like
You cut out again.
how we're digging into like reading lyrics and like digging into artists and like analyzing their lyrics and their deliveries and stuff. Um, how do you feel about like the line between being inspired by an artist and like sounding exactly like them? Like how close do you think that line can get? Like I've had people tell me like, oh, you sound exactly like this guy before. Or like I'll use like the same like rhyme words but in a totally different way, and people will be like you're stealing this bar, and like I don't know like where I stand on that. Curious to hear your opinion on that.
I noticed it early on when I would go and write something and record something shortly after a stroke of inspiration that came from another song.
Yeah.
It sounded it
Yeah.
sounded a lot like that. And so over time, what I learned to do was when I was super inspired, I would write for fun. When I was super inspired by something else, I would write for fun, and I would always notice that similarity, and I would be like, I would put it on the back burner, and then in the future, I would get inspirations from other things in life. Like it might be an entirely different genre, like jazz or pop or whatever it may be, and then I go into hip hop, and suddenly I have this like fusion going on, or maybe it's from like cooking a great meal or having a great conversation, whatever it may be, and um, it still comes off as very inspired, like it resembles
Mm-hmm.
whatever thing it's inspired from very closely, but in those cases it's not emulating another
Mm-hmm.
song. And I think that's important, that we learn what's possible through listening to other music, but we
Uh-huh.
don't necessarily like make our final product off of that.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's just a
Yeah.
process of like being able to step away and let things marinate, and like when I came to understand like all of Chance's flows and acid rap and To Pimp a Butterfly and whatever it may have been, like I was super obsessed with Aesop Rock too. It just kind of like eventually marinated and settled down within me to the point where that's how I would like scat over a beat, and then I would learn other flows, and I would kind of slowly learn ways to fuse them, like
Mm-hmm.
fusing like bouncy fast flows with like old boom bap beats, and trying to find like a medium there, and kind of like bringing more esoteric or philosophical bars to a harder track, which is something that I've experimented a lot. It's just it's a process, and
Yeah,
you got to keep doing
definitely
it,
is a
and
process.
eventually you hear yourself and you're like, oh, I don't think I've heard anything like this. And that's when you know you just made something that's totally you. Like, I was talking at Left Field about this, and the podcast we were recording. I don't know if this bit got cut out because we had to go back and redo something. And he said, I brought up what songs were his favorites that he produced, and he brought up Ride.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've heard Ride. Uh,
I'm not sure.
Ride,
Possibly.
Ride is a song that it's actually no, it's one of two songs that Left Field has produced on my SoundCloud, and it's like super weird and unique and just strange, and it's got like an eerie but strangely philosophical feeling to it. And I remember after recording it, I was like, wow, that's going to be something that I can keep on my catalog like forever. I really like this. And it took a
Yeah,
long
stands out
time.
to you.
It took a long time to get there, and then since then, I can't say that I've made anything that was like that unique that I was like that I had that reaction to. And I think it happens every so often, and it happens more often as you go and as you learn.
Yeah. One of the things I just realized too is like, so like I have two songs out right now that are like doing really well on Spotify. One's Bound, that I made with my friend, and we just like wrote that real fast, put it out, doing really well. But the other song, I Wish You Would Call Me. Like, I wrote that one. I've been working on that one for like 3-4 months. Like, I knew it was good. I didn't think it was like as good. I was gonna get like as good of reactions on it as I have. The save rate on it is at like 76%. So like more than 3 out of 4 people who listen to it are liking it, and they're like it's getting listened to an average of like 4.6 times. And like, before I ever put that out, like, I knew it was good, but like I didn't know it was gonna be like that. So I think it's just kind of cool how like a lot of times like artists like they'll make a song and they'll think it's one of their worst songs, but depending on who your audience is, like, you put that out and it might resonate with them totally different. Some of the artists I follow who are like more, they put up big numbers, like under 1 million or so on Spotify, but like right up there, like towards 1 million. They've said like so many times, like, their biggest songs are ones that like were throwaways. Like, they weren't going to put those out. They put them out and they just took off. So I think it's pretty interesting because like, so like you were just saying, like, Ride, like, that's one that you can keep on your catalog forever. Like, you know that. So I would just be like curious, like, how that would come off to like your exact audience. Like, would they feel the same way about it, or is it more of a song that's for you, like the song that you can sit back and be like, hell yeah, like, I made this song, I'm so proud of this song.
Well,
So like,
I
it's so
find
me.
that no matter how like not so confident you are, if you love it to that extent and you really are that confident, like, there are people out, this is how you can tell. There are people out there who are like, I just made the best song I've ever made. And you know that they did when they talk like that. But when they don't say anything and they, in their own personal life, record something and they're like, wow, this is different. This is crazy. I'm going to have to save this and sit on it for a second. That's when you know that you have something that you can actually like stand by. And oftentimes, those songs, they're the ones that you lose confidence in because you're so proud of them, like, on a
Yeah,
genuine
absolutely.
level.
Yeah.
And
Those.
you doubt yourself. You think like, how are people going to receive this? And a lot of times, those are the songs again that do really well.
Yeah. For me, it's always been the like the most personal songs that I have, the ones that are like they can't, and usually they're the ones that like come out really fast. Like, usually the ones that like I'm not sitting there like thinking of each bar, like trying to make the flow perfect. Like, it's the ones where like I'll say the first line and then like get so in my head writing it that like I don't even have to like deliver it while I'm writing it, you know, like, it just flows out. And then at the end I'm like, holy shit, like, this is crazy, and it just comes out so quick. And then like, yeah, like you said, like, you want to sit on it, like, you want to make it better. And then you'll lose confidence in it because you'll be overanalyzing it so much. I listened to your interview with Prolific, and like some of the things he was saying about like he was getting like too lyrical for his audience, and like he had to like dumb it down at times because like sometimes it just like resonates with people more like when it's comes off like simpler. I don't know, it really got my mind thinking about like lyrics and like how you write, and like for me, like with my audience, like what songs resonate the most with them, and like why that is compared to like the ones that resonate most with me.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting how like because like a lot of artists, I feel like one of the reasons why they like don't have momentum with marketing and like branding themselves is they're focused on like they put out content for them, instead of like putting out content for their audience, and like I'm not saying like putting out content for you is bad. I think it just depends on what your goals are. Like if you're just making music for you because you love doing it, like by all means, like do you. But like if you're putting stuff out for your audience, like yeah, I think you really need to like focus in on what they like and like try to figure out exactly who that is and like why. And I think you really got to know yourself well for that too.
Yeah, and knowing yourself is it's a process that I think it doesn't come through music for a lot of people. Like it's come through music for me in a lot of ways, but then there's a whole like side. There are multiple sides to my life that I'm still working on really tying in. Like there's a whole side of my life where I have what most people would call like spiritual experiences, and you know, taking meditation very seriously, but then also I understand the disconnect of spirituality to reality socially, and I understand the necessity of like understanding something so deeply that you can sort of convey it anywhere. So it's like getting to know yourself is really a combination of life experience and being self-aware, and going through life like actually purposefully being self-aware, because you have to be able to not only analyze yourself but then apply yourself to things in like a snap of a finger. And in order for you to do that, you have to like, because you think about it, there are people out there who do things that are kind of like, it's almost like they'll even tell people like, oh, I'm not even like present for life, like half the shit is against my will, I don't even want to go to work, I don't even want to wake up in the morning and all this stuff. And that becomes part of their muscle memory and their neurological memory of how they feel. But when every single day you're living in the state,
subconsciously remind yourself that.
well, when you live in a state of like, I want to be here, I want to do this, I have this goal, I have this this vision, and you constantly sort of observe yourself and you observe the world and you take notes, whether it's mentally or physically, it adds up to that feeling being memorized, so that when you go to apply to something like a song or a podcast, or even if you're going for a run, or you're going to talk to a girl or whatever it is, it's there like in the snap of a finger, rather than like you're searching in your mind for like the best thing to say, which I notice a lot of people bring that up. They're like, I don't know what to say in these situations that are very important to me. And I think it's just because they don't have themselves committed to memory. Like everybody has an idea of who they are, and they all have like a spark of like, this is how I feel deep inside. And it's just like, you know, it's putting a mirror on yourself for the purpose of actually finding something. I think that's the best way to put it. Like,
Yeah.
it can't be for another purpose. It has to be for the purpose of actually finding something there.
Yeah, that also like gets me thinking about the concept of just like speaking things into existence. I had a crazy experience today. So like my parents, they've known I've been working on music for a long time. They were like half supportive, not really. Thought I would like never amount to anything, but I was always like talking like bigger vision stuff. I'm an Aquarius. I don't know if you follow astrology at all, but like big thinkers, like always like long-term thinking, like the bigger vision. So I've always been like planning out like the moves that I was gonna make and like how I was gonna do this and how I was gonna do that, and like I was thinking about that for the past 5 years. And within a month of me releasing music again, like after these 5 years, like I pulled up and I'm over 10K on Spotify just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I spoke that into existence. Like, and my parents heard me like talking this for 5 years, and like they never thought I was gonna amount to anything. They're like, you need to focus on like work, go get a good job, like go do this, which is fine. Like they care for me and everything. But like I showed them my Spotify today. They listened to my music for the first time ever, and they were like, "Holy shit! Like we're so excited and proud of you." And like that was just surreal for me. Like I spoke this into existence 5 years ago, and then like within a month, like I got somewhere that like people would probably think would take like 3 years, and like I guess it did take like 5 years to get to that point. And I think like so many artists, like they seem like their success stories overnight. Like they blow up, they drop a song, they blow up the next day. But like you never know what goes on behind the scenes to like get to that point. And I think like just telling yourself constantly like you can do it, you can do it, like you can get there, and like visualizing each step of the way, like what you're gonna do at each different step, is really what's gonna get you there. So we were having like an interesting conversation a couple days ago when we were just like talking on Discord, and you were telling me like your whole plan, like you got your content planned out, like you know what you're doing, like you know who you are, you know what your brand is, and like I think that's just gonna like it fits you perfectly, and like you're speaking that into existence like right now as we're doing this podcast. I think that's absolutely critical.
Yeah, I agree, and I think on the subject of speaking things into existence, I'll bring this up that the brain has a way of so I've spent a lot of time studying like physiology recently and psychology, and understanding the chemical structure and the way that we feel things. And I think it's like the mind will manifest your thoughts into feelings, and also feelings into thoughts. But when you use certain words and they kind of go into your subconscious and they cycle through you, they have an effect on you, which is why I would say there's no way I won't succeed, or I'm going to succeed, rather than I can't fail. Because the brain doesn't pick up on the first few words of like I can't. All it hears is the description of like success or fail. So it's really important. And I think a lot of people, they talk about manifestation as like, oh, it's magical, like you're gonna burp out a magnet and it's gonna bring you $1 million. And I think it's much more complicated. It's an amalgamation of many different things, of the way that you treat yourself, the way that you treat the world, and what people remember about you, and the impression you leave, and that it all adds up to something. And when you put in, even if it's just a little bit every day or it's a lot every day, I personally subscribe to the theory that you do a lot every day and you get a lot out of it. Some people decide they're going to do like an hour every day and they see a little something from it, but it doesn't matter what you do. As long as you continuously, sort of tell the world, tell yourself, provide the evidence that you want this, and your mind finds a way to make that work. Like I don't.
Yeah,
I can't.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a bit like it's a bit like your mind is a living computer. If you imagine that your computer was a living thing, that its job was to make sense out of whatever you give it, that's what your mind is kind of doing.
Yeah, you think about something so much that it just like it goes from your conscious to your subconscious, and then like as soon as you hear something that like you can relate to what you're trying to do, it just like hits you. So like I would go to like business classes, and like I was so focused on music, like I would relate every single thing that I learned to music and how I could use that in some way, shape, or form. And like if you're not doing stuff like that, then I don't think you're ever gonna be like programming your mind to be in the right spot to like get you to where you need to be.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And that's really what it's about. I see, it's funny. I've been on this for years. When I started really getting into the whole theory of like people are just like computers, and everything is like metaphorically connected to everything else, and you can see the pattern. Back then, like 3-4 years ago, it was kind of regular, but it was still really weird. And the people who were talking about it were like so far gone into some like, there's a demiurge, or the aliens are coming, or we're all like, we're all doing some. It's there's a whole host of very strange, sort of spins on this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But it originally comes from like practices in the East of meditation, and I think one of the words for it that I found was jnana yoga, on the subject of programming, because the word yoga means union. It's not
Interesting.
actually about physical stretching. Stretching
Mm-hmm.
is a sector or a section of what the practice of yoga is. There's
Mm-hmm.
karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, and then there's like three. There's a whole bunch of other smaller ones, and there's four main ones. Jnana yoga is all mind, and it's all about sort of putting things into place, and mentally like programming yourself to be in balance. And that's kind of
Yeah.
like what I've been doing for the last few years, is delving into that space, because especially in our country, in America, a lot of things are really mental. Even though we act like we're a very physical country, I feel like we're
Mm-hmm.
not. I feel like we're much more a mental people. We're constantly playing mind games with each other. We use our eyes and our minds for almost everything. We're connected to the
Mm-hmm.
phone constantly. We don't use our hands and our feet nearly as much as we say we do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's super important to me that like I constantly sort of go into that space of like, what are thoughts, and how are they changing my life, and
Mm-hmm.
how do I tune them, how do I change them,
Mm-hmm.
how do I make it stick. And
Yeah.
those skills, I think, are probably some of the most like you're sharper than anybody in the playing field right now, if you can wrap your mind around that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because it seems like everybody and their mother is talking about getting a bag and making money by,
Mm-hmm.
running an Amazon business, or working 60 hours a week. But then
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, outside of taking care of their own, they can't do anything at all. They have to drink, they have to smoke, they have to sleep, and then they got to go right back to it. Whereas when you're able to approach everything consciously, and analyze it, and you have that mind strength, you can pick everything apart when you go into it, and be like, do I really want to make this decision, or is there another way that I can go? And
Yeah.
100% of the time, there are alternatives. It's just it takes, and that's the thing about today. People are convinced if it's not obvious and other people aren't doing it, it's not even real. And I think that's
Yeah.
hilarious. Because like
Yeah.
30 years ago, if you were an artist in the middle of nowhere and you wanted to make it, like, you better figure it out
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. I think that also brings up an interesting topic of like as an artist, like for me at least, like all the artists I really connect to, it's on some emotional level always. Like there's something deeper in the music. So like in terms of like programming your brain to like think positive thoughts, so like you think better of yourself, you're more confident, and all that stuff. Like, how do you feel about like allowing yourself to like feel like sad or depressed or something? In terms of music wise, like creatively wise, like I think that can put you in some of your best spaces to making the best stuff, depending on like what kind of music you make.
Yeah.
But like just allowing yourself to like get into that space, because like if you're constantly fighting it, like you might pull yourself out of it. And like something that I found was like another reason why like I took a break. Like I probably took like 6 months off of writing, probably a year ago from now. uh and like the reason of that was like the more I was like finding myself, the more I was finding like I'm writing like really sad stuff, like really emotional, like real stuff to me. And like I didn't want to be like it would put me in that mood all the time, of like being down on myself, because like that's what I was always thinking.
Mm.
And so like I stopped, because I was like, I don't want this to be me. But then like I kind of like changed my attitude about it, and like made it about like every time like I'll do something super sad, like I'll pick it back up like with something inspirational, like something.
Mm.
And like I think that's like what allows me to like be in that space now. Yeah, so I was just curious what your thoughts on all that was.
Well, there's a couple things that you brought up. For one, just to touch on that, there is a factor of leaving, how you say, like, there's got to be something on the other side of the rainbow. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like normal range of emotions.
Yeah, like you gotta leave yourself something on the other side of that, and like you said, you have to be able to travel the whole range, not just be in one place, but struggle. Namely, because I we talk a lot about sadness. I don't think, because some, it's like a baby being killed is sad. That's what I see sadness as. And struggle is what we're commonly referring to when we're referring to like what's happening to us.
Yeah.
Like this is struggle right now. And that's important. Like the only way that you're going to sort of improve is if something is like there, telling you that like you're not where you want to be and you need to improve. Otherwise, you would never have the inclination to do it. You just look at kids who are born in palaces and shit like that. Unless they're born like a total mental freak, and they're thinking like, I hate money and I hate being comfortable and I want to go out into the woods like Buddha did or something. Actually, no, the Buddha wasn't raised like that. The Buddha actually was a spoiled kid, and he changed his mind about his life when he went out and he saw the way that people were living. If I remember the story right. So that means that like it's exactly like I was saying, that the struggle is exactly what inspires you to actually go out and do something profound.
Yeah.
So without it, there's really nothing there. And you said like, how do you handle it, kind of?
Yeah.
See, I used to have anger issues. Like, I still have anger issues. I'm probably never not going to have anger issues. And that's kind of what I'm going to make a point to. Being reactionary it's not the reacting overall that you want to stop. It's that you want to react in a way that's healthy. And we have a misconception that healthy things are positive things, and I think that's total fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I think that improving yourself and being healthy and doing things that are healthy for you are all sides of the spectrum. So when people are like, I wish you weren't so angry, I wish you wouldn't call me out for this, or be so hard on me, or be so hard on yourself, it's kind of like, there are ways that you can improve and like stop it, like sort of stop making it so hard for everybody. But you have to analyze and dig into things. If that's who you are, you have to be able to analyze and dig into things and call them out for what they are. And especially calling yourself out is what's going to allow you to be independent. I think at the end of the day, whether it's money or your mind or your karma, like the way that you treat people, the only way for you to be truly responsible is for you to be like, shit, I kind of lost my train of thought. I guess the word would be self-aware.
Accountable to yourself.
Yeah, like you have to. Yeah. You have to be able to sit with your own reaction and allow yourself to be angry. That's it. You have to allow yourself to have that moment. Because like, especially this year has been insane.
Yeah,
absolutely nuts. I couldn't even go into all the things that happened outside of like, people I know in the celebrity industry dying, and that sucks. And like just the stuff that's happened to our country and other countries, and the stuff that was happening in Africa where they were where the government was taking donations for COVID and then not giving it to the people, and people were dying in hospitals and they were calling it COVID and all kinds of stuff. And like, the list will go down. And then on top of that, like, my job closed on my birthday. The national emergency got announced on my birthday. I had all kinds of stuff I won't talk about to be mad about. And this year taught me, like, you can't avoid being mad. There's no way, because if you're going to get through what it is that's pissing you off, it's not going to be by tucking your tail between your legs. It's going to be
Yeah.
by like ripping your shirt off, getting up and being like, let's fucking handle this shit right goddamn now. And when you have that attitude and you start to become self-aware of like, okay, I'm doing this in a way that is kind of unhealthy, it allows you to find a way that works for you so that you're not incapacitated, and rather you're fueled by every time something pisses you off. It's like every time you drop something on your foot, you got to take a breath, and it's just another step in the long line of practice where you're learning to keep yourself level-headed and zen. And the more you do that, the more you go through that struggle, the more zen you are, and so that you're always on track and gaining momentum. And that's I think that's the point.
Yeah, always moving towards like a higher plane of like self-awareness and stuff. Definitely.
Right. And to demystify that, I think when we talk about higher planes and higher levels and all this stuff, it comes down to what am I capable of? What can I do in life? And the more you traverse that kind of like upward path, the more you find yourself able to do, and that's the beauty of it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I had one more question for you. It's kind of off topic. Like in terms of in getting better as an artist, as a rapper, like from anywhere from like lyrics to like your lyrics you write to your delivery to your flow, like what do you think impacted you the most? Like what do you think like taught you the most and like the quickest amount of time, like the most efficient way? If you had to pick one thing. I know everyone has like different strengths and weaknesses. Like some people might be much better at delivery than writing, like others better at writing.
Were you saying like what taught me the most? Like what thing did I come upon in life that really vaulted me forward?
Yeah.
There are a few things. I'd say. See, I'm always apprehensive to give the credit to any psychedelic, simply because my experience with psychedelics has actually shown me that the exact same ways that I feel and the exact same ways that things come together in a trip for me, they're the same as what happens when I meditate and I really focus. And all the research I've done shows that like the chemicals in psychedelics are very similar to the chemicals in the brain, like serotonin. So I really don't think there's anything mystical going on there. I think it's sort of like an overload of power to your brain, and you get an opportunity to handle it. And that really taught me about the power of sort of feeling myself, but really doing it in a way that's like I can feel my heart beating. I can feel my face. I can feel my hands. I can feel the effect of my music when I listen to it. If I ever get a feeling like something is off, I immediately dig into it. There's no buffer there. I just rip it open right away, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, let's take a look. And since then, since I've kind of gone into that space of everything I do, I'm constantly feeling myself. And it's not in a way of like I'm proud. It's not in a way of like I'm feeling good. It's in a way of like it's almost like self-awareness, but it feels so physical to me. And kind of like turning a mirror on myself from the inside out. It's very hard to describe. And since then, I'm just kind of like, I've just kind of been able to reach my point much quicker.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
go ahead.
Like it kind of seems like you're saying like you know yourself like you're comfortable enough with yourself to like reach like a certain conclusion with what you're doing that it just feels so natural, like you don't like question it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then like you just
and then there's also a variety of other things like discovering artists that I never imagined could exist, like people like Aesop Rock. Absolutely blew my mind and put me in a state where, see, this is what I tell people this a lot, that your influences make or break you. And if you have
Mm-hmm.
tasteful influences and you really take them like sincerely, you're gonna have like a good taste for creating something. Um, so yeah, like getting to know artists that I like always kind of like had pipe dreams, like, oh, I wish somebody was out there talking like profound life shit and super hard bars, and like lo and behold ASAP Rock always existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and that just
Just yeah.
it opens your world.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of like that kind of brings up the topic that we were talking about, like with like you just need every 3 out of 10 people to like what you do too. And like you can grow. Like you don't need everyone to like you. Like you don't have to appeal to everyone. And you're not gonna appeal to everyone. But like if you just get 3 out of 10 people in the world, like what's that? Like we said it was like 2.1 billion or something. If you get 3 out of 10 people.
Out of 7 or 8 billion, it's 3 out of 10. It's about like 2.4 or 5 or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Like huge audience out there for everyone. It's just like being comfortable enough with yourself to like know that's you. So you can make the best stuff you can do, and then put it out there. Yeah.
Right.
So my answer to that question, like in terms of like what helped me the most, I didn't really, I wasn't thinking too like spiritual and like with myself, besides just like getting to know myself, which kind of goes back to what you were saying. But like this is like what, so I see Sobe doing this all the time. Like he's rapping over other rappers' songs, like with their delivery, and he's learning their cadence, he's learning their tone, like their inflections and how they're doing it. And I think like just doing that consistently on like a wide variety of your influences is gonna like get you to the spot that like you need to be the quickest, especially in terms of like delivery. But then you got to be careful of like not taking their flow. But in my opinion, like every artist has like their own like pocket. Like some stuff just like works. Like some people could enunciate and use like this syllable count, but like I can't do that. Like I need to be exactly like this, or like for some reason it just doesn't flow in my brain, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like just like figuring out and then just like kind of creating like a mesh pot, or like yeah, like a montage inside of yourself, like everything that you know. I think that's like what did it for me, like really elevated my game the most.
Mm.
Which is interesting. Yeah, I see Sobe doing that, and like if you listen to Sobe, like his delivery is insane. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had like similar experiences. It's almost like maybe it's just not my thing. I've always wanted to. Like every I always hear like one of them was High for Hours. You remember that song?
Oh yeah, J. Cole.
Yeah. Yeah, I really wanted to rap over that beat, and I never found like a pocket for me. And I think it kind of spoke to my obsession with always like from the jump being able to just go into something and write and make a fusion out of what I already have. Because I've always felt like, you know, no matter where I am, no matter how much happens, it's already been so much. I already have so much to pull from. Like no matter where I go, I should be able to find my own sound. And I feel like, you know, there are cases like Ride where that sound is really distinct, and then there are other cases where that sound is nowhere near as distinct. And it's interesting. I think it's different for everybody, the way that we find our stride, and I think it's
Yeah,
supposed to be that
absolutely.
way, because it would
Yeah,
be utterly obnoxious if everybody were doing the same thing.
yeah. Couldn't agree with you more there. Yeah, everyone's just different. You gotta figure yourself out, figure out what works for you, and then not focus on the things you can't do well, and focus on the things that you can do well, and figure out how you can be a master at those things, and then just move forward with that, and just like being comfortable enough to know like, okay, like I'm not this kind of art, like this type of artist. Like I can't really make art like this. I'd like to, but like I can't. I'm gonna focus on what I'm damn good at and do that to the best of my ability. I think that's
Exactly.
definitely like something that you should really keep in mind. If any artists who are trying to level their game up.
Right. Yeah, I agree with all of that. As far as like, you know, questions going further, out of all the people, like again, if you took the cap off,
Mm-hmm.
out of all the people who exist, all the artists that you know of, if you could work with anybody, who would it be?
Uh, that's a real hard one, honestly. Probably Fora. You know Fora.
Mm-mm.
He's like he's fairly big. He's been around for a long time. Has like ridiculous amounts of albums. His fan base is like incredibly diehard, just not that big because of the content he makes. They're all like super super emotional, like touching, like hitting songs. Like you could pull up his lyrics, and like you could probably go to any line, and like that line's gonna hit you in some way.
Hmm.
And I don't know, just like the way he, like I found his music when I was at like the darkest place in my life. And like just like knowing that like he was going through a lot of the same shit, like that just hit me and like changed my life. And like that's kind of like what I want to do with my music too, is like help people in that way, like let them know like they're not alone and they can still go out and like achieve things in their life. So I would say Forward, just because what he did for me at a time in my life when I needed that. And then his like he just dropped a new album. You should check it out. It's one of my favorite albums. He went a little bit like a little poppy on it, and he got some like big pop names on it, but he's just trying to blow up. But he's insane, man.
Hmm.
How about you? Would you? I'm guessing Kendrick, ASAP Rock.
It's interesting. I really want to work with Jacob Collier, dude.
Oh yeah, you was telling me about him.
Jacob Collier is, see, the thing about it is that um it's so fresh and inspiring to be around somebody who has that kind of energy. I feel like I would love to work with Kendrick if I sent him something to throw a verse on, whereas like Jacob,
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, I would want to like literally go into a studio with the dude and just make music for days. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
feel about his technical ability and his creativity and what he's capable of pulling off in just a moment,
Mm-hmm.
just with a little bit of inspiration. So I don't know, like it seems like he has such good judgment for when he puts an idea down, and it seems like he has such a good understanding of like what the magic is behind making
Mm-hmm.
music.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of
Yeah.
it's really touching to me to know that people like Jacob exist,
Mm-hmm.
because you look at a lot of his fans, they don't fucking believe that, like a lot of them joke around like I can't even believe this guy's real, like the dude's practically a meme, he's so fucking good. In fact, he is a meme, he's so fucking good. People make memes about this dude because they would be absolutely just intimidated to play a set with him. Like one of
Mm-hmm.
them is like a musician walks up to Jacob and is like, hey bro, you want to jam? Or Jacob asks a musician like, hey bro, you want to jam? And the musician's like, sure, what
Like,
key? And Jacob's like, all of them.
yeah. Yeah, just so creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to dig in. I saved one of his songs just so I would like go back and check them out. I still need to do that.
Yeah,
Definitely do.
definitely. Like, I think "With the Love in My Heart" is probably one of the most, like one of the biggest flexes for his catalog, because I mean, the song changes like 3 or 4 times, like almost entirely, and every single time the energy goes up. The mixing is like the mixing and mastering is so clean and crisp, and it's just so like grabbing, and like it's so hard to describe.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
You just gotta hear it.
yeah, yeah, you really do, and especially his confidence. One of the things I realize about Jacob is that he's lived with his mother his entire life. I don't think he's ever moved out. Um, and of course nowadays, like he can go wherever he wants. He's a world famous superstar. Like he's got 4 Grammys. The dude's only like 23 or something.
Yeah.
Um, and he never, like, he had a super nurturing mom and all this stuff. Like I can't say I had a even remotely similar childhood. But it's interesting that he just never stopped with his dream from like childhood,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been in the same place of inspiration that whole time, and he's never stopped finding new ways to go about his craft.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely have to dig through his albums. Just like looking at his Spotify, like it looks pretty wild.
Yeah, He's definitely one of my favorite artists out right now. Uh, I think another one is TK Maidza or Maidza. I can't remember how you say her name. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's from
No.
Australia. She is stellar, dude. All pretty much everything that came off of her last EP was just absolutely stellar. But she makes like these fusion kind of trap bangers with like soul R&B kind of bridges, and it's all really high energy, and the beats are very high energy, and the flows, the bars, the tones, and the words she uses are all thoughtful and very fresh, and they really, how you say, play off of what makes trap music and like kind of fast-paced music so cool, which is the bravado of the vocals, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, I'll definitely check both them out. Just say their songs. Sweet.
Of all the places that you feel like you could go, aside from Los Angeles or Atlanta, where do you think you would want to go for
Damn.
for music?
That's a tough one. I mean, these days, I mean, like, it's like you can do anything like at your like wherever you are, with the internet and like all the machines and like all the different tools that are available online. Like,
right, but to meet people
yeah.
and to absorb the culture, really.
That's a really good question. I mean, like, I know you said not LA, but like like I was born in San Diego, so like I got some like Cali in me. I don't know. It's like it probably would be LA, but like, if not, then just like honestly, like wherever like the people who I was like fucking with most of the time, like where. I don't know if that's a suitable answer for you. Maybe like Tennessee, even though it's like country. I don't know. I haven't put too much thought into that, to be honest.
I put a
because
lot of
I've
thought
always
into
just
it.
felt like I would like be around, you know, like I would just go wherever I was needed, you know,
right,
like wherever I needed to be to like get that inspiration that I need in that moment, for like that track or like that feeling. I don't know.
right. I think
I don't
personally,
know. I mean,
for
ideally,
me,
like,
sorry, go ahead.
so you can go, sir. I mean, like ideally, like I'd want to be somewhere warm. Like if I was like making money like full time, like could quit my job, like just make music, I'd probably go somewhere like warm and like close to like Cali and like close to other places, but like not directly there. I don't know. Las Vegas inspires me a lot, actually. Every time I've been out there.
Okay. Yeah, I think personally, I just think in more terms of like the globe. So I'm thinking like,
oh, okay.
I wonder what would happen if I go to Paris, and I'm thinking like, what would I find in you know, the Netherlands, and what would I find in London? London is a crazy place to meet musicians. Just they have it's such a melting pot, a global melting pot that I feel like nothing could ever replace that experience. And it's weird. I almost feel like I've gotten the opportunity to understand American culture so well, having lived in Connecticut and Oregon and Florida for like extended periods of time, and that like through the advent of the internet, you're able to get a lot of the rest of the picture once you have like a decent understanding of what really changes the different areas of the United States. Like I've driven through the middle of the country before. After a while, it's like you just want to know what the fuck else is out there, man. Because you can learn as much as you want about France on the internet, but until you go there and you like, I don't know, speak the language a little bit, or you know, spend a couple years and you know how people drive and you know how people like operate, you understand the huge difference. Like Americans have. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, what were you saying about just like going around the globe to like different places? Like, what would you make in France? What would you make in London? Like, I think every place you'd go would just provide some different kind of inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you could go to the woods in Montana and go live in like a shack for a year, and like that might bring you some amazing music. Then you could go to Dubai, live in like a high rise, and get totally different inspiration. That's a really cool way of looking at it. I think that's a good way to like change, keep your inspirations like fresh too. Like I found like just like if like I'm cooped up at my house, like, and that's where I normally make music. Like just going to my homie's house who like also makes music, like totally different change of scenery, like always gives me some new inspiration of some kind. So good way to think of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It comes down to like, this is one of the beautiful things about this planet, and just like the concept of going from place to place and getting information from other areas, is that somehow like the leaves on the trees are different, the animals are all different, the people are all different, the way that the way that everything is just slightly different from everywhere else. So like it all those small factors play into whatever you're gonna do. And I think it's interesting. Maybe one day we'll be able to like somehow quantify that and be like, it's these few things about France that are going to, kind of make or have this effect on you when you go there. But right now, I don't think anybody really has that level of understanding of like what it is that makes a place, what it is at its heart. But there's something to be said about it.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where things are at, like just in terms of like machine learning and stuff, like where if that like figuring stuff out like that is even possible in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it might be. Yeah, machine learning is absolutely wild. Like I was just doing research on Spotify's algorithm, how that relates music to other music and then like puts it, like gives it out to listeners is absolutely insane. So like some people like they might be like, oh yeah, I'm selling this like playlist placement for this much, and like yeah, it might get you a shit ton of streams, but like if it's the wrong genre, like if it's not a fit for your music, and like it's not, Spotify will push you, but like it's not gonna show it to the right fans, and they're gonna hate your music. But if you find that like that niche audience that like exactly who you want to hit, like Spotify's algorithms are gonna show it to you, and like the way it does that, it's absolutely insane. It goes through every single playlist in their database and looks for songs that are right next to each other, and if it like finds matches, it'll look at all the other songs, and if it finds like these two playlists are exactly the same except this person has this song and this one, then they'll take that song and show it and recommend it to the person who didn't have that song in his playlist. Absolutely wild. It's crazy. So like your Spotify algorithm, crazy. It matters so much. Like don't fuck it up. To any artists out there.
Yeah, it's definitely something. I think for from case to case, it's gonna change. It's like, depending on your likelihood that you're gonna switch up every now and then. I think one thing that really helps is going through multiple phases, and so that like with your fans, so then your fans have an idea of like, okay, this is the person that I follow, and these are their different like faces, these are their different like attitudes and moods, and then going on from there, then you can really start to bounce from one thing to the next, and your fans still kind of know what to expect. And there's definitely a balance between that, and then also like working with the algorithm and making sure that you don't offend the way that things usually work. Yeah, it's just a balance, really.
Yeah, and yeah, I think like being versatile as an artist and like doing different things, like I think there's definitely like pros and cons to that. But like the cool thing about like this machine learning Spotify stuff is like it's gonna learn about you if you're doing different things, and it's gonna learn that when you do this kind of style, not to show it to this type of person, but to show it to this type of fan. So like you could still build up like all these different types of fans, and they're still gonna all be your fans, but like they all resonate with different stuff. Super interesting. crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
The more I dig into the algorithm, like Spotify is just like a growth machine. Like they want to put, if you make good music, like they want to show it to people. You just have to like help them figure out what people to show it to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Crazy. Yeah.
Well, with that all being said, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to go up the street and grab a couple things.
Sounds good, man.
Tell the people what you got going on. What are your socials? And do you have any projects coming?
So, Ely Waves, that's my name. I got my socials, my IG, Ely.waves on Instagram. Pretty much Ely Waves everywhere else.
And that's ELY.
Project-wise, I'm not really focused on projects right now. Yeah, ELY, Ely Waves. Project-wise, don't really have a project coming per se. More so focused on singles and just getting content out through the end of 2020. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing I have a new song coming out in like a day or two. And then I also am doing a song every other week for the rest of this year and probably a little bit into 2020. So
awesome.
If you just ride with me, Wave Gang. That's my fan base right there.
Heard. Awesome, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sly. Great
yeah, for sure.
Bro.
I got you.
Yeah.
Great conversation. Thank you for coming on. And I think with all that being said, this is a perfect place to wrap it up. So I'll see everybody on the next podcast, and looking forward to having you back, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me again, Sly.
For sure.
See you guys.
Yes, sir.